It started like any other day, or so I thought. I was buzzing around the house, trying to get everything ready for the wedding reception that was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. The smell of fresh flowers still lingered in the air, mixed with faint traces of coffee I'd brewed that morning. My heart was pounding with excitement. This was supposed to be our moment, a celebration of years of love, of promises made and futures planned. But something felt off, a prickling in the back of my mind I couldn't quite shake. I noticed her, my wife, Lisa, acting a little too nervous as she fidgeted with her dress. She kept glancing at her phone, her fingers trembling slightly when she thought I wasn't looking. I brushed it off at first. Women get nervous on their wedding day, I told myself. But then I saw her slip her phone into her purse a little too quickly when I walked into the room. I casually leaned against the doorway, trying to hide my curiosity. She looked up at me with a nervous smile, but her eyes darted away almost immediately. That was my first red flag yet. I dismissed it like an idiot. The reception was crowded with friends, family, and a few acquaintances I didn't care much for. I was trying to enjoy the moment, but my gut kept telling me something was wrong. Then I saw her, Melissa, my best friend since college, standing a little too close to Lisa. They were laughing, whispering, and Melissa's hand was resting on Lisa's waist a little longer than it should have. I felt a strange twist in my stomach, a mix of unease and confusion. I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe they were just talking about flowers or some silly wedding detail. But I knew better. Later that night, after everyone had gone and the house was quiet, I decided to check her phone. I didn't want to believe it, but I needed to know. The screen lit up with a string of messages, flirty, suggestive stuff that made my jaw tighten. They weren't just friend talk. No, it was more secret messages, inside jokes, plans to meet up when no one was looking. My hands went numb. My stomach sank like I'd been punched. I needed to see more, so I scrolled deeper. Pictures from her phone, of her in-private moments with Melissa. I could see the way they looked at each other, the intimacy in their eyes, the way her fingers lingered on Melissa's arm. It was real. It was obvious. I felt my chest tighten so hard I thought I'd suffocate. How could she hide this for months? How could she betray everything we'd built right under my nose? That moment, the discovery, hit like a freight train. I spent the night staring at the evidence, my mind racing with a flood of questions and a rising tide of rage. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't have a plan yet. All I knew was I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't stay silent anymore. The next morning was a blur of cold silence and clenched fists. I looked at her, still asleep, unaware of what I'd uncovered. Her chest rose and fell gently, sunlight catching on her hair. I reached out, my fingers trembling as I held her wrist. I wanted to shake her awake, shake her for what she'd done, but I just stared. How do you confront someone who's been lying to you for so long? How do you face the betrayal that's cut so deep it feels like my heart's been carved out? I didn't have the answer yet. All I knew was that my life was about to change forever, and I had a decision to make. The question was, what's next? That morning, everything felt heavier than usual. I sat there, staring at her, at Lisa sleeping so peacefully as if she hadn't just shattered my world overnight. My mind kept looping through those messages I'd seen, each one more vivid and disgusting than the last. The way she'd hidden it, months of sneaking around, lying, pretending to be the perfect wife, made me feel sick. The betrayal cut so deep I could taste the bitterness in the back of my throat. I'd always thought I knew her, but now I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. I clenched my fists so tight I thought I might break my palms. My nails dug into my skin as I tried to hold myself together. I kept telling myself, stay calm, collect your thoughts, don't lose your head. But honestly, I was on the verge of losing it. She stirred then, blinking slowly as she opened her eyes. Her face shifted into that fake morning smile, the one she'd used so many times before. I saw right through it now. I saw her guilt, her shame. She looked at me and I saw the flicker of fear in her eyes she knew I knew. "Morning," she said softly, voice trembling. "Did you sleep okay?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked at her, every inch of her face screaming betrayal. Then I forced a calm tone, cold and deliberate. "We need to talk." She hesitated, her lips trembling. "About what?" I took a slow breath. "About the messages, about the thing I found last night." Her face went pale. She tried to sit up, but her hands trembled. I could see the panic in her eyes now. It's not what you think." "Oh, I think exactly what I think," I said, voice low but steady. "You've been lying to me for months, haven't you? Cheating on me, hiding it right under my nose." Her lips parted, but no words came out, just a nervous swallow. She looked like she was about to burst into tears or deny everything, but I knew better. This wasn't some innocent mistake. This was betrayal, pure and simple. I felt the rage bubble up cold and sharp like a knife twisting in my gut. "I want to see the messages," I said. "Show me the truth. If you're innocent, then you have nothing to hide." Her eyes darkened and I saw her hesitate, then reach into her purse. She pulled out her phone, trembling, and handed it to me. I thumbed through the screen with a clenched jaw. There they were, more evidence than I needed. The flirtatious texts, the photos, the plans to meet up after the wedding. It was all there, undeniable. I stared at her then, feeling my world shatter in that moment. My voice came out strained, barely above a whisper. "How long has this been going on?" She looked away, tears streaming down her face. "Since last year," she whispered. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, it just happened. I didn't know how to tell you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman I married, the person I trusted most in the world, was a stranger to me now. Every memory, every promise, all tainted by her lies. I felt a terrible emptiness inside, but also a flash of something darker, an urge to make her pay for this, for the pain she caused me. Before she could say another word, I told myself I needed a plan. Something cold, something calculated. I wasn't just going to storm out and throw her out. No, I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. I needed to teach her a lesson she wouldn't forget. I needed revenge. I looked at her, trembling with emotion, and I knew that whatever I was going to do next, it had to be precise, controlled, ruthless, even if it wasn't violent. I wanted her to realize what she'd lost, what she'd thrown away. That's when I started to craft my plan. I was going to make her regret ever crossing that line. And I'd start by exposing her secrets, bit by bit, in the most public way I could find. But first, I had to get more evidence, more proof of her lies, so I could make sure she understood the gravity of what she'd done. The betrayal wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was months of deception, and I was ready to remind her of that. The game was on now, and I was going to play it to the very end. Once I had the evidence in hand, I didn't waste time. I knew I had to be meticulous. The last thing I wanted was for her to spin some sob story or plead innocence. I needed her to understand that I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. My mind kept circling back to what this meant for us, for everything I thought was real. First, I went through her phone again, downloaded everything, texts, pictures, even saved some of the messages in case she tried to delete or deny any of it later. I wanted to make sure I had a backup, just in case. I also checked her social media accounts. There were more clues there. Photos she'd posted that hinted at secret meetings, comments that suggested a pattern of hiding things. I needed to be certain, so I set up a little trap. I started planting some innocent but strategic questions in our conversations. I wanted her to slip up, show me more. I knew that if I pressed her too hard at once, she'd get defensive or try to cover her tracks. So I played the calm but firm husband, asking about her day, her plans, her feelings. Meanwhile, I kept my eyes sharp, waiting for her to reveal more on her own. One afternoon, I caught her in a lie. She said she was going to a spa appointment, but I found a receipt from a different location, one that was near the last place she met Melissa. I didn't say anything right away. I just watched. Her face flickered with guilt, and that's when I saw the cracks in her perfect lie. Later, on my way home from work, I stopped by a discreet private investigator. I didn't want to rely solely on what I knew. Sometimes people can hide things well even when they're caught. I handed over the evidence I had collected, and I told the investigator to keep an eye on her movements. I didn't want to get reckless, but I knew I had to be thorough. While I waited for updates, I mapped out exactly how I was going to confront her. I decided I'd give her one last chance to come clean, but I also planned to make her understand I wasn't going to be a fool anymore. I wasn't the type to burn everything down immediately, but I wanted her to realize the damage was irreparable if she kept lying. That evening she came home late, smelling of perfume and guilt. Her eyes flickered with worry as she saw the look on my face. For a moment I thought she'd break down and confess. Instead, she tried to smooth over the tension, pretending everything was okay. "I was at the spa," she said softly. "I swear. I just needed a break." I looked at her, my jaw clenched. "Really? Because I've got a receipt that says otherwise." Her face went pale, she hesitated. Then for the first time she looked like she was about to break apart. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "I was confused. I didn't mean to hurt you." That was my cue. It was time to lay everything bare. But I held back just long enough to let her stew in her own guilt. I told her I had outside help now, that I'd been watching her. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. I knew this was only the beginning. I had all the pieces now, and I was ready for the next phase. I wasn't going to let this slide. I was going to make her see what she'd lost. The question was, how far was I willing to go? After she saw I wasn't joking, the mood in the house shifted. The air grew thick with unspoken tension. She avoided my gaze at dinner, fidgeting with her fork, sweat beading on her forehead even though the room wasn't hot. I watched her, calm on the outside but boiling underneath. I knew she was scared, and honestly I didn't care. That fear, her guilt, it was exactly what I wanted her to feel. I sat back and let the silence stretch. Then I finally spoke, voice low and controlled. "You've been lying, you've been sneaking around, hiding this from me for months, and now I've got everything I need to make you understand how serious this is." Her eyes flashed with panic. "Please, don't do anything crazy. I love you." "I made a mistake." I shook my head slowly. "Love, you call this love? That's a joke. It's betrayal, Lisa, and I'm not just going to forget it, not after everything I found out." She tried to reach out, her hand trembling. "I swear I was going to tell you, I just didn't know how." I looked her straight in the eyes. "You didn't tell me because you knew I'd find out. You thought you could hide it forever. Well, guess what? I've got enough now to end this permanently. But I'm not stupid. I want to get everything clear before I make my move." I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages I'd saved, the photos from her secret meetings, her face drained of color. "This isn't just some mistake. This is a full-blown affair." Her voice cracked, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was confused, and I didn't know what I was doing." I leaned forward, voice sharper. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You lied every step of the way. You betrayed me with my best friend, Melissa. Do you even realize how much you've destroyed?" That was the moment I decided. If I was going to do this right, I needed to make her pay without wrecking my life in the process. I've been thinking about revenge, but not just about exposing her. I wanted her to feel the pain, how it felt to lose everything. I told her I had an outside plan, something that would teach her a lesson she wouldn't forget. I explained how I'd been watching her, gathering evidence, even hearing someone to keep tabs. I didn't want her to think she could lie her way out of this. I wanted her to understand that I was serious. Her eyes widened in terror. "What are you going to do?" I smirked bitterly. "That's not your concern right now. Just know I've got options. I can make this worse for you if I want." She looked defeated, quiet. I could tell she was starting to realize the gravity of what I was capable of. And honestly, I was prepared to go as far as I needed. I had to send her a message. This betrayal wasn't just a mistake. It was a fracture that might never heal. Before I left the room, I told her, "Pack your bags. When I say you're leaving, and I mean for good. This isn't just about revenge. It's about making sure she understands she lost everything she took for granted." As I closed the door behind me, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. I'd made my move, but I knew the hardest part was still coming. The fallout was about to hit, and I had to prepare for whatever came next. I was finally taking control of a situation I used to think I couldn't survive. But I wasn't just angry. I was ready to see this through no matter what. And deep down, a small, cold voice told me I would. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog. I kept everything locked inside, my anger, my plan, the sense that I was finally taking back control. I stayed silent during the day, but at night, I played out every step of my revenge in my mind, making sure every move was precise. I wasn't just going to confront her. I needed her to feel the full weight of her betrayal, to understand that she had pushed me to the edge. I kept the evidence close, her messages, photos, the receipts, and I made a list of all her little lies, all the moments she thought I'd never find out. The outside investigator kept me updated, and I knew she was still unaware that I had eyes on her. That realization made me feel cold and powerful at the same time. She thought she was hiding everything, but I was already several steps ahead. One afternoon, I finally decided it was time. I called her into the living room. She looked exhausted, her face gaunt from crying and sleepless nights, but she still tried to put on her usual fake smile. I didn't give her that satisfaction. Instead, I handed her a folder full of the evidence I'd collected, just enough to make her realize I wasn't bluffing. "Here," I said quietly, voice steady but cold. "Everything you need to see. I want you to understand how exposed you really are. This isn't going away, Lisa. Not until you face it." Her hands trembled as she took the folder, flipping through the pages. I saw her eyes dart over the texts, the photos, the receipts. Her face went pale again, and for a moment she looked like she'd collapse. "You're serious," she whispered. "I am," I said. "And I want you to think about what you've done, how you've hurt me, everyone around us." She looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was lost, confused. I cut her off sharply. You were sneaking around for months, lying every damn day. You think that's confusion, that's betrayal, pure and simple. You don't get to play the victim now." She sank to her knees, crying harder. "Please, don't do anything reckless, please." "I'll do anything." "Oh, I'm not done yet," I said, voice sharper than before. "You're going to leave, Lisa, tonight. Pack your things and get out of my life, and don't come back, I mean it." She looked up at me, desperation in her eyes. "Where will I go?" I leaned in close, voice cold and decisive. "That's your problem now. You made your choices. You want to run from this, fine. But understand, I'm not going to keep pretending this didn't happen. You're out of my life, and I'll make damn sure everyone knows why." The look in her eyes was a mixture of shock and fear. She knew I was serious. I handed her a set of keys, cold and heavy in my hand. "Take these. Just don't come back, not ever." She took the keys, trembling, and mumbled something about regret. I didn't listen. I just turned and walked away, leaving her there on her knees, broken and defeated. The house was silent except for her muffled crying. In that moment, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd finally taken control, but the fallout had only just begun. I knew she'd try to claw her way back, make excuses, or worse, lie her way out of it, but I was done. I'd made my point, and now it was her turn to live with the consequences. Walking out that door, I knew this was the end of a chapter I never wanted to write. My trust was shattered, but I'd found a way to pick up the pieces. The betrayal had cost me everything, but I was finally free. And honestly, that was worth more than any fleeting revenge. The silence that settled over the house felt heavier than any words could carry. I stood there for a moment, watching her pack. Her bags with trembling hands, her shoulders hunched as if she was trying to shrink away from what she'd done. The scent of her perfume still lingered faintly in the air, a bitter reminder of the woman I thought I knew. Every box she packed felt like a small victory, but also a reminder of how much trust I'd lost. When she finally looked up, eyes red and swollen, she whispered, "I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you this much." I didn't bother to answer. I just handed her the keys, cold and hard, and turned away. My heart was pounding with a strange mixture of relief and exhaustion. I knew I'd been right to do what I did, but it didn't make the pain any easier. On her way out, she looked at me one last time, tears streaming. "Will you ever forgive me?" I paused, then shook my head slowly. "That's not up to me anymore. You made your choices. Now live with them." She left, closing the door behind her, and I finally let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The house was quiet, emptier than it had been in years. I felt the weight of it, of everything I'd lost, everything I'd gained back. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least I could start to breathe again. Sitting down on the couch, I looked around the room. The chaos of betrayal still lingered in my mind, but a strange calm started to settle. I realized that revenge, as cold and calculated as it was, had given me a sense of closure I hadn't thought possible. I had faced the betrayal head-on and come out on the other side. Now I could finally start to rebuild, trust myself again, trust that I'd be okay without her. It hurt like hell, but it also set me free. I knew that someday, maybe, I'd find someone who deserved my trust. Until then, I'd have to learn how to live with this scar, to let it remind me of what I'd survived and what I'd done to protect myself. Looking at the now empty doorway, I felt a strange mix of resolve and peace. I'd done what I needed to do. And as I sat there, I knew one thing for certain. I'd never let anyone hurt me like that again, not without paying the price. And that, in the end, was the real lesson. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to take control, face the darkness, and walk away stronger.